we have a Smith machine upstairs, which is like a Nautilus type machine. And as long as my right arm was involved, I could lift weights. If my left arm was involved, it wouldn't go up. Something's not right here. So I called the doctor and they suggested I go to a neurologist. I went to the neurologist and they started doing all sorts of tests. And they said that there was some blockage in my left side. I said, what does that mean? They said, well, it's one of two things. It could be a pinched nerve, or it could be an early indicator of motor neuron disease. They did some more tests, they saw more damage, and they said, this doesn't look like a nerve pinch. You should have been better by now. In June, they sent me to another doctor for a second opinion, and there's a rare disease called multifocal motor neuropathy. And it affects one hand only, usually of European descent, and I believe of Jewish heritage, but I'm not 100% sure. And he said, you don't really fit the qualifications. He said, but I'd like to treat you for this. He said, but I'm going to tell you with 100% certainty that you have ALS. He said, I said, why are we going to do this treatment? He said, well, you're a young man. He said, at the time I was 40 years old. He said, you have 3 little kids. He said, I can't look you in the face and tell you that you're going to die without giving you every single opportunity there is to live. And he said, I will do this treatment. He said, it's probably not going to work. He said, it's a 1 in a billion chance. He said, but I want to give you a 1 in a billion chance. So we did the treatment and it didn't work, and that pretty much answered the question that it was ALS.
Shaun is, let's see, he's obnoxious, the most vulgar person I've ever met, but he's a great guy. He'd do anything for you.
You know, he's actually very compassionate and caring, and you don't see that in the firehouse, but you definitely see it on the emergency runs. And he's one of my best friends.
I wanted to stay on the job as long as possible. Some of my close friends said, you know, you don't have to go, stay longer, still okay. And I felt that I never put any of my guys and my co-workers in jeopardy.
I'm Becky and I'm 12. I'm Jessie and I'm 9. And this is my twin sister Katie and she's 9 too.
My daughter has a rare neuromuscular disease, mitochondrial disease. When they started talking to me, I immediately called her doctor and said, is this possible? You know, I thought about the kids, I thought about them growing up without a father, thought about who's going to take care of my Katie. The bad thing about motor neuron disease is a lot of it, there's nothing you can do. It just happens and it progresses and you just live through it. But at the time, you just think about the children. Think about how they're going to react and how they're going to go on without a dad who's going to take care of them.
My dad has a muscle problem. He used to be like this big, strong guy who could fix everything, and now he's like having trouble opening, like unscrewing a screwdriver or like tying his shoes, like little everyday stuff he's having trouble doing.
It's hard for him to dress himself or feed himself or get into a car, so it's hard. It's hard to watch somebody you're close to just not being able to do what they want to do, and especially when he has young kids at home, and I'm sure they don't understand what's going on either.
I'm a fireman. I don't want someone taking care of me. I don't want someone feeding me, dressing me. That's my future. We're supposed to take care of people, not the other way around. Some guys look at this job as a job. I never have. The 2 hardest days I had was telling my kids there was something wrong with my muscles and I was leaving work. And coming into the fire station, telling the guys. I had my 2 best friends on either side of me because I wrote a letter out and I didn't think I could get through it.
It was definitely tough on the guys, and tough on Shaun. I mean, he was leaving something that he lived for. I mean, this is what he did. He was a lieutenant in the fire department.
It's hard to walk out after 25 years. It's harder when it gets taken away from you. These guys are my family. They're hurting too. They want to know what they can do. They want to fight it because that's what we do. There's nothing to do. Just live as long as I can. About a year ago, Doug Vermont, the MDA representative that's a firefighter in Newark, contacted me and asked if I would come speak at an MDA, a firefighter MDA convention. Talk about why we fill the boot, what we do. My two friends drove me down to Columbus. We did this talk for MDA. I told them what was going on with me. Told my story. Told about my little girl. Told them what it was like when they told me she might not make it. Told them what it's like when they told me I'm not gonna make it. After 18 years of being out on that road and carrying a boot around, I never got it. I got it then. Got it when I was standing up there talking. I got it when the guys connected with me and said, "We'll help you. We'll do what we can." My guys here, they want to help. This is what they can do. It's not just about me. It's about my daughter. I had the opportunity to go to MDA Camp Cheerful and I met these kids. They have such tremendous odds stacked against them. They're in wheelchairs and they have breathers on and suction machines, and they're just kids. They're out there dancing. They're riding a canoe and they're just living. That's why we go out there with that boot. That's what we're supposed to do.
I just feel for him. It breaks my heart knowing what he's going through. But I can tell you this, it provoked me to be even more aggressive in doing fundraising for MDA, because it could happen. It could be me next, you know, or it could be one of our other guys.
You know, it's a small thing we do, you know, filling the boot for a weekend, and you know, everybody asks, how can we help you? This is how he asked us to help.
I may not be able to step off that rig anymore, but I can still help those kids. I'm going to do this as long as I can. And after I go, my guy is going to do it for me.
Hello, brother and sister firefighters. Kelly Crush here. I just want to say, give a big shout out to everybody out there and let you know that I'm thinking of you guys. I'd love to be there with you, but ALS has kind of put a cramp on my travel abilities right now. But I just want to take a minute to let all you brothers know how much you mean to me, what you do when you go out there with your Field of Boot programs. I can tell you, these last 3.5 years, it's made my life so much better, knowing that the funds that you guys collect out there on the streets go for MDA families like me, who for research, for equipment for us, and the most important thing is hope. It gives us that one day we'll beat ALS and all the other 42 neuromuscular diseases that are out there. I'm honored to be a firefighter, and I'm very proud everywhere I go to say I'm a firefighter and be involved with you guys. And thanks again, and I hope to see you guys down the road.
Brothers and sisters, for the past 18 years, Shaun has participated in Fill the Boot drives, not ever knowing that one day he was going to be raising that money to also help himself. What else can I say? What an inspiration. What an incredible brother. I welcome him and present all of you with one of our own, Shaun Probert. Shaun.
Thank you. I'd first like to thank President Schaefer for having me here. My union representatives, Terry Kowalski and Rick Ammon, who are out in the audience somewhere, who they're my brothers, my best friends. They take care of me. And my girlfriend's here, who is also my best friend and takes care of me, Debbie McNally. I started doing this talk about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, and we went to Akron. 2 members of the Akron Fire Department got in a fist fight over whether or not I should have been there. One of them felt that IAFF had nothing to do with MDA. The other one felt strongly that it did. I wasn't sure what to think or what to do. I never had 2 people fighting over me in my entire life. Of course, it's 2 guys, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story and muscular dystrophy. As the video said, and I know I kind of go back and forth from the videos, one of my daughters has mitochondrial disease. That's Katie. Katie and Jesse are twins. About the second day after Katie was born, I started telling everyone there's something wrong with this child. Everyone was like, well, if you didn't have 2 kids, you wouldn't know there's something wrong. And I said, well, I do have 2 kids, and I do know something's wrong. So I argued with everyone, no one listened. Finally got a hold of a doctor. The doctor told me the same thing. He said, son, very condescending. He said, if you didn't have 2 children, you wouldn't know anything's wrong. So I went right back to my fire department training. I said, Doc, if your aunt had balls, she'd be your uncle. I do have 2 kids. I know something's wrong. Katie's a fighter. Katie's a fighter. She was in and out of the hospital the first couple years of life. At about 2 years old, she got sick. Then she got sicker. We went to the ER, and they came to me and said, we're going to ground transport your daughter to the Cleveland Clinic. And I said, ground transport her? Why? He said, because we don't have an air ambulance available. I said, wait a minute, Doc, she's just a little sick. Doctor said, well, if she makes it through the night, we'll know more in the morning. That's what it's like having a child with muscular dystrophy. My story is no different than many of our other brothers and sisters out there. They have sick children, sick family members, or know someone like that. This is just what I've dealt with. I had been out of the department about 10 years, out there filling the boot, working for it, never really understood why we did it. Now here I am with Katie, a child with muscular dystrophy. Still didn't quite get it. Was a fireman. My kid's sick, I'll take care of her. A little bit about mitochondrial disease is mitochondrial disease is considered terminal. They used to tell me things like, if their child makes it past 10, then it's unknown. But most of the mitochondrial kids die before the age of 10. Then that they were sitting me down one time, they said, there's a good chance Jesse is safe. Now Katie's a twin. You don't really think about that so much, but they didn't know if Jesse was sick or not. So when you're dealing with mitochondrial disease or muscular dystrophy, there's so many unknowns out there that you really don't know which way to turn. And there's a lot of unknown answers. That's why we go out there and fill the boot. That's why we try to find those answers for those people. Katie today is constantly improving. You saw her walking. You see, she can eat by herself. She does have a feeding tube in, but she will eat. She'll walk holding a hand. She's happy, healthy. All this stuff I was told will never happen for Katie. So that's all very positive things. When you have a kid or you're dealing with muscular dystrophy or motor neuron disease, it doesn't just affect you, it affects the whole family. When you guys go and you grab your kids, you put some stuff in the car and you walk out the door. When we go, we grab diapers, feeding tube supplies, syringes, everything we need. And people stare at you. They look at you like you're some kind of freak because your child doesn't talk or she groans inappropriately or squeals. My other two got very tired of it. They don't understand why everyone, makes fun of Katie or looks at her like something's weird. When Katie was 4, we went to Disney World. So we were sitting there and she was kicking the chair in front of us. And this woman turned around and said something to me. And she said, "Sir, your child's kicking my chair." I said, "I apologize. She's handicapped. I'll try to get her stopped." And she said, "Well, she needs to stop." And I said, "I understand that." About a minute or two later, she does it again. The lady turns around and says, "Sir, that child needs to stop kicking my chair. This has to stop." I said, "Ma'am, she's handicapped. I'm doing the best I can. She's scared." Third time it happens, this older fellow right next to the lady turns around. I said, "Here we go. Another person's going to tell me about how horrible Katie is." The guy said, "Sir," and I said, "Yes." He said, "Put that child behind me." I said, "Excuse me?" He goes, "Put that child behind me." He goes, "She can kick my chair all day. I won't act like such an asshole." So it's a valuable lesson for my other kids that people do stand up for these kids. And that's what we do when we fill that boot. We stand up for kids who can't stand up for themselves. I can't promise you I'm going to make this through this whole thing without getting emotional. I might start tearing up. That's part of my disease. It's called emotional liability. You laugh and cry at inappropriate times. If you guys start tearing up, it's just because you're a bunch of wimps. But there's nothing I can do about that. I got to tell you a little bit about the job. The video touched on it just a hair. I love that job. I wouldn't say this if these doors were open, but they didn't have to pay me to do that job. I'd go in every day without pay. I'd do it for free. There's times I was driving home, I thought I'd probably get pulled over and get arrested because I had so much fun, and I'm telling people it's actually work. We all know it's not work. It's a way of life. It's our love. Then comes May of 2010. That's the day I had to retire. I'm going to read you a couple names. Many of you know them. Tim Hartman, Jeff Aldridge, both Columbus, Ohio firefighters. Kelly Crush, Wichita City firefighter. All members that had ALS. Their story's mine and mine is theirs. I hope it's the end of the firefighters' names we can put under this list. But I know it won't be, not yet. As many of you are aware, is ALS robs the body's motor neurons, which makes the muscles die. 50% of us die within the first year. The rest of us, they give 2 to 5 years from the onset of symptoms. In 2008, I was physically fit. I was running, swimming. I'm working out. All of a sudden, my left arm wouldn't work anymore. It's getting weaker and weaker. Finally got to the doctor, and they diagnosed me with ALS, told me to get my affairs in order. When I first started talking, Doug Vermont, the MDA representative out of Columbus, asked me to come and speak, and I said, "Doug, what do you want me to do?" He said, "Put them in your shoes. Tell them what it's like to have ALS." I said, "I could do that, Doug. I can give you a whole list of what I can't do. Can't feed myself anymore. Can't wash, can't dress." When I was going to come here, my girlfriend wasn't necessarily available. So I talked to Terry, my best friend, my brother. I said, "Terry, I can't do it." He said, "Why?" I said, "Terry, I need help in the shower." So Terry gives me this little quiet look. He doesn't want to say nothing. He goes, "We'll help you in the shower." I said, "Terry, I need help all over in the shower." He said, Yeah, we'll help you in the shower." That's brotherhood. Of course, I stopped by Terry's room this morning, and there's a hazmat suit, one of them long scrub brushes in there. I'm not sure what that was for, but I can guess. I can really tell you what it's like to have ALS. I'm a fireman. We can laugh at anything. But here's the real truth. A couple years ago, my oldest daughter quit something. I don't know what it was. She said, "I want to quit." I said, "You can't, Beck. We don't quit." She said, "I'm scared." I said, "We're all scared." She said, "Daddy, you were the strongest person I ever met. And if you can't do something, how can I?" My Katie. If I don't have a nurse or Debbie or someone around, I don't get to see her. I have a standard divorce, so I get visitation. But if I don't have someone, I don't get to see Katie. And when I die, I don't know if Katie will remember me. That's what it's like to have ALS. I'll tell you right now, it's not easy to be on the other side of the boot. And we all go out, well, we don't all go out and do it, but when I started doing this talk, I thought everyone filled the boot. I didn't know who did or didn't. In Ohio, we have 252 unions. Only 117 of them fill the boot. I had no idea. But I learned a lot more about it. And I want to tell you what MDA's done for me. They got a brace for my foot to help me from falling. They brought me a little thing to hold my arm up when I try to eat. They asked me one time, how did I feel about filling that boot when I first started? I told them the truth. They said I hated it. Never understood why we did it. Thought it was ridiculous. MDA invited my daughter to camp. If you've never been to MDA camp, I invite you to go. It'll change your life. You go to camp and MDA takes care of these kids. And like I said in the video, kids are out there canoeing, dancing, just being kids, just living. That's why we go out there and fill that boot. I started coming around doing these talks a couple years ago, and people say, why do you do the talks? Go spend time with your kids. You've done enough. You don't have to do any more. I tell them about this little kid I met at camp. He said, "You're a fireman." I said, "Yes." He said, "Do you have a disease like me?" I said, "Yes." He said, "How can you take care of us if you have a disease like me?" I thought back what my buddy Briggsy said when I was at about my lowest point. I was crying to Briggsy, and he said, "I'm not a fireman anymore." He said, "That's not true." He said, "You're still a fireman. You're just not on the job right now." He said, "You can still help them kids." I thought about it. I am still a fireman, and I'm going to help these kids. I won't ever quit the fight. People have come up to me after these things and say that I was very courageous to come out and speak, tell your story. Didn't really understand that. I always tell Debbie, I don't know what they're talking about. She said, "Well, it's courage. What do you think courage is?" I said, "I know what courage is. I went to MDA camp." Courage is getting into a canoe when your arms and legs don't work and hoping someone's going to pick you up if it flips over. Courage is smiling and pretending not to notice when people stare and look at you. Courage is going to school in a diaper. How dare I ever say I hated filling that boot? These kids have more courage than I could ever hope to muster. That's why we fill the boot. Now, I learned a lot this morning, and I sat there so proud to be a firefighter. Little side note, I still have all my uniforms and all my T-shirts, and I unfortunately have to live with my mom, but she's like, "We got to get rid of this stuff." I said, "Never. I wear them every day." Anyone asks you, say, "That's who I am." I may be in a wheelchair. I may not be getting on the rig anymore, but that's who I am. But I learned about how hard we fight. I knew of the battle in Ohio that my guys went through, but I didn't know all the national battles. And I saw the drive and determination that everyone had, and I was so proud. So I'm up here now asking for more. I'm asking him to take that fight for muscular dystrophy as well. I know it's hard. MDA or muscular dystrophy knows that it's hard to ask you guys for more. But I'm not an outsider, and I'm asking. After 10 years of muscular dystrophy with my daughter, I'm asking more for her. For the kids and the families of people I met, I'm asking more for them. For Jeff and Tim and Kelly, I'm asking more for them. I want you to go back to your unions, go back to your houses, and explain that we're going to do more this year. Explain why this is so very, very important. And the guys and gals are going to look at you. They're going to look at you like you're crazy, and they're going to say, why is this so important? And you tell them a brother stood before you and asked you to. You tell them a brother stood before you and told you that he and his daughter are in trouble. You tell him a brother asked you for help, and you tell him we're going to answer his call. So I can be the last firefighter that has to answer my last alarm from some horrible disease. I thank you all for listening to my story, and please be safe.
That's why we go out there with that boot. That's what we're supposed to do.
I just feel for him. It breaks my heart knowing what he's going through. But I can tell you this, it provoked me to be even more aggressive in doing fundraising for MDA, because it could happen. It could be me next, or it could be one of our other guys.
It's a small thing we do, filling the boot for a weekend, and everybody asks, how can we help you? This is how he asked us to help.
May not be able to step off that rig anymore, but I can still help those kids. I'm gonna do this as long as I can. And after I go, my guy's gonna do it for me.